Lord Vader, Operation Andor is underway.
Excellent. If we release 3 episodes per week, the Lorehounds will never be able to cover every episode. The Imperial forces will crush the rebellion before it begins.
Stand by. We're picking up something on our scanners.
Echo Squadron, reporting in.
Delta Squadron, on your left.
Tango Squadron on your 6.
With Imperial forces coming in fast, we're calling all rebels to join the fight this season. Starting after the April 22nd premiere, you'll hear 3 full breakdowns for each week's episodes of Andor Season 2. Each podcast will be led by one of our squadron leaders, Elysia, David, and John. We'll be bringing in new and familiar voices to fill out the roster. Search for the Lorehounds on any podcast platform to join us in a galaxy far, far away. And don't forget to check out our season pass for even more content like our Holocron bonus pods. It's good news for anyone, except Darth Vader.
Welcome to the final episode in our Wheel of Time Season 3 coverage. Time to look back on the season as a whole, and we're going to be sharing some final thoughts from the community and from us. And as far as who us is, we have a full house today. I'm Elysia, and I'm joined, of course, by John. Hi, John.
Hello. I'm back one more time.
One last time. Mark from Nevermind the Music is back. Listeners of the full season will remember him from the mid-season Mailbag and a couple musical lorecasts. Welcome back, Mark.
Hi, everybody. Well, happy to talk about the show a little bit before everybody forgets it existed for another 3 years. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Don't say that.
I'm hoping we get the back-to-back renewals. I hope that's what they're sorting out so that they can just film back-to-back. Yeah. And Jean is back, repping the non-reader perspective. So, Jean, you're going to keep the 3 of us honest in terms of there will be no future book spoilers. But yes, of course, spoilers for all first 3 seasons.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
This is very nice.
So, John and I, we already shared all of our finale thoughts. But, Jean, what did you think about the finale? Because we last heard from you after episode 7. Other than, I'm sure you obviously missed Perrin. He was unfortunately not in the finale.
No, absolutely not.
But Perrin actually, fun fact, spent the whole finale kicking rocks.
Yes, he did. On his march to be judged. But yeah, I thought it was great. I got everything that I wanted at the end. I saw Rand go full on Karakakana, whatever they call him. he lifted up into the clouds, and everything that I wanted to be spectacular, he did some spectacular shit. Made it rain in the desert, and that was cool. So I got exactly what I wanted from the series, the finale of this season. So yeah, I was very happy, very happy. If nothing else, just for that moment of his coming into, stepping into the next phase of his journey. Yeah, I was very appreciative of how
better
he
or
did
worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse, and totally enjoyed it. It was really great.
Awesome. And Mark, we haven't heard from you since episode 6 for subscribers, and I think it was episode 5 in the public feed. So, what are your thoughts on the end of the season in general?
Yeah, I like the season finale a lot. I guess, I was last on about the Hills of Chanchico and all that. Mm-hmm. I liked the Golden Eyes episode plenty. I think I liked it a lot more than 2 of you, at least. But that it's also weird for me because the first time I read the books, Perrin was my favorite character, and he's kind of gone down and down in the last few times I've read the series. And I think it had to do with where I was in life or whatever. I wanted to believe in simple-minded goodness that has been broken down. But so I like that episode, though. I think it honestly probably the main thing. R.I.P. Loyal, but
yes,
what I like about it and what I like about the Perrin arc right now is that I like Fail. Yeah, and I don't care. Spoilers for the book, people. I've read through most of the book 3 times, and I hate Fail every single time. So it's been awesome to like her And so I'm like,
Wow.
oh wow, this is kind of an interesting character. That, I mean, obviously she has redeemable aspects in the books, but, and I know that people are going to hate me for saying that, but like I could never get into the character any time I read it, and I like
She's
her
got
character.
a lot of, yeah. The book version has a lot of haters, so you are definitely not alone in that. I definitely came to appreciate her more on rereads because you come to understand her more by the end of the books, and then I take that knowledge with me into a reread. But the first time, I remember saying to the person who gave me the books, I'm like, "Oh, I want to strangle this woman!" Like,
So I've only read the full thing once, right? So
Yeah.
2 of the rereads, I'm stopping in the middle books that everybody hates. You know, that's as far as I got, right? So not everybody hates, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there are
The
certain
slog.
arcs with Fail that take a long time, and I've stopped and put the series down for a decade after one of those, you know? So anyways, finale I liked. One thing I liked about the finale in general in this season is it's rushed through certain aspects of the books that maybe would be kind of tedious. They got through, you know, Nynaeve is all super powerful now, and that's really cool. Though I kind of wanted to see her just disintegrate Leandrin right then and there. But, you know, I think unfortunately there's some plot lines like that are coming up that maybe are ones that I hope they also fast forward that you all have made allusions to. But
Sure.
just not to focus on spoiler stuff or anything, but like I liked all 3 of the arcs in that finale. I liked the whole stuff with Swan. I thought that was really emotional. Though, sort of like a certain scene in this week's The Last of Us, I'm kind of like, just say a few things. Maybe just explain a few things, and they won't kill you. Or then they at least spare you some you know,
Pain.
heartache in this moment. But the Tanchiko stuff was
Swan
really cool.
did say things in the end. In the end, she was like,
said things, but she did not, and I'm sure we'll talk about this with the audience feedback, but she did not say the kinds of things that Lyanna wanted her to say. Like, explain, you can just, sure, speak your truth about love and defiance, but there's actually a pretty good explanation for some of this, especially since the whole allegation, maybe we should talk about this later, the whole allegation of you didn't do what you were supposed to about the Dragon Reborn. She tried and failed to do that. And that never got mentioned once the entire season. No, actually, everybody, I tried to capture him and he escaped. Like,
But
how is that not at least sort of exonerating, right?
No, because actually at the beginning of the season, Leandrin was using that. She was throwing that in Swan's face as a reason why Swan should be deposed. So that would not work in her favor to point that out.
Deposed and executed? Like, for trying and failing to do a thing is different than you lied to us and willfully did this thing that disobeys Tower Law. No, you tried to, she did last season and everybody was mad about her. She tried to follow Tower Law and capture the Dragon Reborn against Moraine's wishes, and they're executing her for it, which is kind of wild. This is one of those, the Jedi are bad guys kind of arguments, maybe. The White Tower Law sort of sucks if that's why Tower Law. Anyways.
Yes.
But it's a great scene.
Yeah. Sorry. I do think that the White Tower sucks, like just like the Jedi in the prequels. But at the same time, actually, I'm going to defend Swan here. I think she came around to seeing it is not the right thing to do to cage Rand. And to say that she tried to cage Rand too may legitimize the act for future Amerlins.
That's true.
I do think that there's merit in not saying like, yeah, I tried to do it too, because that only adds to the argument that they should keep trying.
Yeah.
And also there's, you know, her dignity and her like, her power there was not to acquiesce to their demand, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought it was a great scene. I think the Tanchiko stuff was cool. The eelfin stuff is probably my favorite thing in the whole books, even though it's so weird. And so I'm just so happy it's happening. I'm super curious to hear if it confused the heck out of Jean or not. But it's just, I was glad to see that Balefire makes an appearance. Also super curious to hear if that confused the heck out of Jean. And the Rand, the Rand moments, I think it was bold to have us end with Egwene sort of chastising him a little bit.
Such a hater.
I know. Egwene is a character that you, as a reader, struggle with her conflicts with some of the characters and grow, in my case, to love by the end of the books. Like, you love her and then you get frustrated and you love her again. And I think that moment was very real to that aspect of the character. Like, I'm rooting for Rand, and she's like, but, and like, she has a real good point, but it's also kind of deflating in that moment because you're seeing this like maximalist moment. So I thought that was a great choice at the end, kind of, despite just the questions it raises kind of about the character relationships and things like that. And yeah, the Shido are really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
So they are refusing to play ball, and I hope we can move through that plot line in an economical way that's very satisfying.
I mean, okay, I can't respond to that without book spoilers, but
yeah, no spoilers. Just they suck, and I hope they are portrayed in a sucky way that is enjoyable on screen, and not a sucky way that makes me.
No,
I want to hate watch them. I don't want to hate not want to watch them.
Right. I feel like no plot line's going to overstay its welcome in the show because there's just not room for it. It's always going to be the danger of the opposite, where we're losing things too quickly. So, okay, can I ask, piggybacking on what you said, Jean? You were nodding vigorously when he asked if Balefire confused you. What did you take from that scene as a non-reader? And this is in Tenchico in the palace when. With Elaine and Tom and Jian, R.I.P.
I just thought there's so many things that I don't know about this world that, I wish that I did in that moment. Like, where did this come from? What does it mean? How do you harness it and things of that nature? So it was just really, it just made me want, because I intend on reading the books right after the series is done. So it just gave me more of a reason to dig into this world. So it wasn't like, what the hell is this? Where are they coming from with this, whole thing? It was just more of like, oh shit, this is something else that I need to, really dig into and learn about and see what exactly, how it works and how it doesn't work and things of that nature. So I kind of like not knowing, right? Because it's making me really want to be more inquisitive about this world. So I'm in a happy place when they present me with things that I have no knowledge about, no warning that it's coming. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just drop me into it. And I'm like, oh, whether it's cool or not, I still want to find out more about it. So that's how I felt when watching those scenes. And the scene with the elfin. Is that? The elfin. So I guess we'll talk about it more, but it was just like, for me, it wasn't weird. Like, I wasn't taken out like, oh, the hell happened to Matt? It was just like,
it's a fantasy show. It's all weird, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm just like, oh. And then as they're talking, I'm like, oh, this is like some sort of, genie in a bottle almost situation. Not the same, but, there's always conditions with wishes, right? So it's, it just made sense. And it made sense for this world to have these, this other thing involved in it. Like, so I was just totally on board. You have creatures that we can never imagine seeing. So why not add more to it? Give me all of it. I want it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I don't know if I could easily explain the Eelfin to you, Jean, but I got you on Balefire already.
Reverse!
That's how it works.
I liked with the Balefire what they did with the special effects, how they showed her kind of an outline of her rewound and then the ceiling went back up. So it's just like the last few seconds of her life are like,
yeah, and there was this like this image of her of a warrior type of thing in the background. Like,
I think that was her rewinding.
That was her rewinding. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's one of those things where, if as a book reader, I'm like, I know exactly what just happened. As a show only watcher, that's definitely what I've noticed that they've been doing with the lore in general, is they'll kind of show a thing and then explain it later. Like they showed tying off the weaves as early as the season 1 finale, and now they're just finally starting to explain what it is. So then later, when people go back and rewatch, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, the whole time it was doing that thing." They just
It's interesting to me, too, because these two sort of potentially out of left field confusing things from this finale are treated very differently. By the time you see Balefire in the books, you have heard people talk about it for probably 3 books, right? So you're kind of ready. Now, that doesn't mean you know what it is. You know what people think it is, right?
Right.
Whereas we haven't seen that at all. It hasn't been mentioned really maybe until this season. Whereas on the other hand, the eelfin thing in the books does come out of left field. Whereas here, we've had little references because of what was going on with Elysia. And sure, there's like mention of foxes and stuff like that in the books, but to me, that feels like a very out of left field thing, whereas it's actually a little less out of left field because of the Min's vision and because of the Elysia coming out of it. You're like, oh, that's a gate door she went in? Like, so it's kind of interesting. They're sort of giving us, on some level, an opposite experience in terms of preparing us for these kind of weird moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into, we got a lot of thoughts and feedbacks about all of this and a bunch of other stuff from the community. We got a bunch of emails, a lot of chatter on the Discord. Thank you, as ever, to Nancy, our keeper of the Chronicles. We hope you're enjoying your vacation right now and sipping lots of margaritas as we record. But yeah, we're going to be going through basically arc by arc, topic by topic. If we don't get to yours, just know we read it. We really appreciate it. We're going to be talking about the season as a whole, but mostly focusing on, of course, the last 3 episodes. Episode 6, A Shadow of the Night. Episode 7, Golden Eyes. And Episode 8, He Who Comes with the Dawn. And since Nancy put this together, she did put in some stuff from the two of you, and I took most of that out since, and I'm speaking to Sean and Mark. I took most of it out because you're here. But Mark, you said one thing that I'm going to pose this as a question to John.
Me?
The lore cast.
What did I do?
No, Mark's asking you a question via me. The lore cast question of whether talents are genetic or cultural. One question to ask that we can't really have an answer to is whether dreamwalking is a common talent amongst the Tuathan, considering their shared lineage with Aiel. Do you think Tuathan can dreamwalk?
This is because the Aiel have more dreamwalkers than everybody else.
Right, genetically, or maybe, yeah.
I don't know. See, here's the thing. I don't know if it's genetically that they do have more. Or if it's the culture of the Aiel being like, yeah, dreamwalking is a thing, and so more people will try it. Like, is it selection bias?
Okay, that's fair.
And, right. I don't think that the Tuathan are even interested. Like, if you told them they could do that, they'd be like, okay, seems dangerous.
Does it involve burying our dead and moving on?
But if it is genetic, yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, well, actually, I do see why they wouldn't, because the Aiel are a much more enclosed society, whereas the Tuathan are constantly taking in people, right? They are descended not just biologically, but sort of, they're more of a cultural people than they are a biological people, right? The Tuathan are constantly like picking up new followers, and so there's a lot more intermixing
genetic
with
mix,
different peoples.
Yeah.
Whereas the Aiel have been like all
Or
in the
isolated.
desert and not, and more, less interbreeding between different peoples.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Sean, can I ask you, as the book reader, what did you think of the whole dreamwalking aspect of the season? And did you feel like you were following that? Were you interested in that story?
Yeah, because in my parents' culture and a lot of cultures that of people that I grew up around, people interpreted dreams. You know what I mean? So it's always been something that I've had interest in. So to see people who can go into dreams and actually do things in other people's dreams, that's not a foreign concept to me in real life. You know what I mean? So watching it unfold on screen was just cool for me to have this different aspect of something that I'm already familiar with.
Yeah. On the topic of the cultural aspect, and the influences, we got 2 messages. The first one's from Marilyn. From your descriptions, the Aiel culture sounds remarkably similar to the pre-Abrahamic Semite culture, which were a desert people. They were matrilineal and matrifocal, according to some researchers. I also get vibes from the Iroquois nation, in which, if I understand correctly, men are the warriors, but the women are the ones who decide whether or not to go to war. And Ayas Sadai said, I believe Robert Jordan said that he based the Aiel culture on the Cheyenne. So yeah, this is what I wish Robert Jordan were around. I do actually think he would love the show personally. That's my opinion. But I would love for there to be interviews with Robert Jordan about all of these aspects now.
Yeah. I want to add, Marilyn brought up pre-Abrahamic Semite culture, but I actually think it reminds me a lot of like the exile in the desert of the Hebrews, right? Like God says, hey, y'all need to do some learning. So you are not going to see the promised land. You're not going to go there. Maybe your descendants will. I'd be like, I'll bring your descendants for sure. That's my promise to you. But you're going to have to wait a while. And that's a lot of like what the Aiel are, right? This is the threefold land. This is their test. This is their proving ground. So I think that there definitely is, even if Robert Jordan is basing the cultural aspects on more indigenous American cultures, I think there definitely is a plot aspect in parallel.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, do the three of you in general like in fiction, whether it's TV or movies or books, dream sequences and prophecy? Do you like them in general, or do you not like them in general?
I mean, we were talking about the prophecies because we did the Karathon cycle, the prophecies of the dragon as the last lore cast. And yeah, I love a good prophecy, right? Because I mean, because of the way, I suppose, like look at Min's visions, because of the way it plays with the question of what is inevitable, what does inevitability even mean? And yeah, just our messes with our expectations and reminds us that we should not think that we know what's coming ever, even if we literally have prophecies.
Yeah, I too am a prophecy fan. But it has to be not like straightforward, right? There has to be a twist to it. Like we don't know exactly how it's going to happen, or it's going to be like sort of turned on its head a little bit at the end. The Wheel of Time is really good at that. I just finished the first book of the Stormlight Archive. That's really good at that, I think. It makes sense. Brandon Sanderson wrote the last 3 Wheel of Time books, right? So I think that there are very good ways to use prophecies. It can also be done really poorly. I'm pretty much, in general, I am fine with any trope if it's executed well, and I don't like the trope when it's executed poorly.
That's fair.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't have a problem with the prophecy chosen one, themes, because quite honestly, that's the majority of the things that I've ever written, read, or seen on screen had some sort of, parallels to someone being chosen or way back when, and then we're waiting for this person to come and save us from whatever they're going to save us from. So that's been part of everything that I've ever consumed. So I don't even think I could say that prophecy is not a part of my sci-fi journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just ingrained in it.
Sounds like dream sequences you might be a fan of too.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love dream stuff too. Yeah.
As long as it's not like, and it was all a dream in the end. But
exactly.
These tropes are not good or bad. They are just they're just colors on your palette to paint with as a creator, right? And they could be, Mark, are parallel fibs bad? Sometimes, and sometimes they're not, right? I know. I listened to your whole thing about parallel fibs on your podcast. That's why I'm poking fun at you. So, Mark, you clearly had an agenda when you asked this question. So why don't you tell us?
Right, that's right. Every question I ask has an agenda behind it, John. That's right. Intellectual dishonesty coming your way. No, I struggle with them. Not because of any like polemic, like, oh, well, this is derivative or whatever. It actually, especially with books, it causes me to struggle to pay attention to what's happening. It's almost like when I see that Tolkien is writing a song or has a song.
Right.
I have to not pay attention to it. There's something about my brain that there's some iconic Telar and Riyadh. I'll say this series of books handles dreams and prophecy better than pretty much anything else, in my opinion. But I find myself struggling when I'm reading, in particular, fantasy, but also sometimes watching a movie or whatever, processing it as not almost it's hard for me not to just almost think of it like my dream. Well, it's a thing that happened and it's just garbage. And I find myself zoning out when I'm reading it. And it's really an interesting thing. And this book conquers that a little bit because there's like a tangible reality to the dreams. I mean, a prophetic dream in fantasy, forget about it. Like my brain's like, I find myself wanting to skip. It's so strange. And I can't defend it. It's almost an involuntary thing. Like my eyes glazing over with a epic poem in Tolkien. Like, obviously I like music and I like, it's tough. And prophecy can be like that a little bit, like the sort of the exalted speech of the way like a chosen one prophecy would be written. My brain just knows, like, you're not going to be able to figure it out. So don't even, it becomes word salad for me. And it's a really...
okay. I do the opposite.
And I'm not defending it. It's just kind of a weird thing that's kind of always been there with me. It's probably diagnosable. I'm not sure. I wanted to know if I think I'm probably alone in fantasy, because I think there are probably people who feel that way, and those people are repelled by fantasy and sci-fi, and they just don't consume. Whereas I still like this style of storytelling. So
I'm sure you're not alone. Listeners, write in. I mean, yeah, I get puzzle brain when I hear prophecy. I'm like, ooh, what could this mean?
Well, as someone who just came back from watching Return of Revenge of the Sith on theater screen because they're doing the 20th anniversary, I ate up those seeds of Anakin dreaming about Padme's death. Ate it up. The way that they handle that, there's a lot of bad things you can say about that movie, but that's not one of them.
There are.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of prophecy, we got a question and a comment from Dopamini. She said, when Rand channels at the end of the rain comes down, is the rain fulfilling part of the prophecy? And I'll come back to that in a sec. I loved learning that he will destroy the Aiel, not by killing them or something like this, but by revealing the truth of their lineage as oathbreakers. In this way, the illusion of who they are and have always been has been destroyed. But now that they know this, they can move forward and perhaps get past some prejudices, which I guess will make them stronger in the end. So you said something similar to that second part, Jean, in the Discord.
Yeah, I did, because I was fully expecting, the breaking of the Aiel to be literal at this point. Like they're gonna go. He's gonna either cause some sort of massive earthquake that's gonna swallow them all up, and literally like kill off the nations, period, right? And then I'm watching it, and as I'm watching the season, and especially in the season when he goes back, the episode when he goes back in time to into his past lives, it's like, okay, I kind of got it. Like, it's not a literal death of the Aiel. It's more of what they know now is going to be destroyed to give them something else, right? But that something else is also going to destroy them, because he's going to take them to war.
Sure.
Right? And it is both a literal and a figurative death of the Aiel. So I was very, happy that it wasn't the literal death that I expected at first, but in my mind, I know it's still going to happen. Like, I don't expect many of these people to survive to the end of this story, right? I think the faceless, nameless, folks are going to go, maybe.
I mean, we're losing big characters, so yeah.
Right. So maybe a handful of Aiel will survive the final battle, and they may not even make it to the final battle, So I was happy that they didn't give me what I thought I was going to get in the beginning with the destruction of Aiel culture right then and there. This is a gradual thing that's going to change them and eventually lead to their downfall. So in that way, Rand is the destroyer.
Spoilers.
Destroyer of worlds. Spoilers. So Dopamini had the question, when Rand channels at the end and the rain comes down, is the rain fulfilling part of the prophecy? And since John and I just did an episode on the prophecies, we have to say that the short answer is we don't know what's in the entire fat book we see them looking at sometimes in the show. But from what we do know through the books, they don't specifically mention rain. But one thing that does say in the prophecies that we know of is the shadow shall rise across the world and darken every land, even to the smallest corner, and there shall be neither light nor safety. And we saw... This is a bit different from the books, but I know why I have a feeling I know why they're doing this. We saw dark clouds creeping across the entire continent, across even the sea on the other side of the continent, and everywhere our characters are in between. John and Mark, do you think this is going to be a permanent weather effect they'll have to deal with next season?
Spoilers.
You can't set me up like that.
I'm just asking, do you think it's
maybe
it's speculation? It's speculation.
Is it?
It's not. It's different from the books.
People should read the titles of some of the books.
Right. Well,
if they want spoilers that still don't make sense but kind of spoiled, read the titles of the books. I wanted to say to this, we don't know the whole Karathon cycle, but what we really don't know is any of the verbiage of the prophecy of he who comes with the dawn, right? The question should be, does the Aiel prophecy of the Karakarn have anything to do with rain? Because that sure seemed to be meaningful to some of the Aiel in that moment.
Right.
And their prophecy is obviously related to the prophecies of the dragon, but it's probably a heck of a lot more specific about that. And if it's like, there might be a passage there about, the rain's tumbling in the middle of July or whatever, right? So I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's deep desert, so it's not like rain in general. It's weird.
And I don't think we know really anything about their prophecies in any specificity, because we at least get the epigraphs. Is that the right word? Like the beginning of certain books, we get like chunks of the prophecies of the dragon. We don't ever get that, I don't think, for the he who comes with the dawn prophecy.
No, I don't think so. I think that part of it is just the fact that it is water. Like, they're always so amazed by water. And I just want to say I would watch a spin-off where we follow the Missionaria Protectiva, spreading to all these cultures the prophecies of the dragon, but I don't think we're gonna get that one.
but I also thought in that moment when it started to rain, it was just like, all right, now he just totally subverted everything that this culture is about, because now they're all wetlanders. You know what I mean? It was a slur. It was almost like a slur to be like, oh, look at this wetlander, coming here. And now, it's raining on your ass. We're all wetlanders right now. This is what's up. This is what's going on. Like,
who's the wetlander now?
Now, exactly, right? I'm really here to change everything about you, even to how you describe yourselves in other people. Right. And that's what Rand did. It's amazing.
That's a real good take. And it's also just kind of like, how do they react afterwards?
To that, yes.
Part of it is like they make comments in the books. I'm sorry, I don't remember if it happens in the show, where they're amazed by the fact that they take baths. Do they say something about that when they're in the sweat tents? Like, you're wasting water by putting your dirty butt in that water and washing it. Like, what a waste. So is this rain wasted, so to speak? Or does stuff start growing, right? So do they see this rain as Rand is kind of almost, because he didn't generate water, probably. He probably called water from the air, moisture, that kind of thing. Like a lot of the one power usage seems to like be based on things that are around in the environment. So is this just like runoff now and it's just polluted and it's kind of ruined the landscape with erosion? Or did spring come early or something, right? So, I mean, we don't see that, and we probably won't see that, except that Elysia wants us to talk about spoilers related to the weather.
Is there going to be a lake in the desert?
I thought that they were going to skip any weather-related plot lines, and now because they showed this in the finale, I'm like, well, I think maybe next season we're going to be talking about the weather in a different way than the books.
I defer all speculation to John, to John for now. You know?
Okay.
Well, because as soon I'm looking up the titles right now, so I went straight to the titles. So I'll be looking at these titles for the rest of the show, making my own type of formulations in my mind. So yeah.
So one thing that they did well differently in the show is the whole Elysia story. Sub-Zero says, Yosha did an amazing job in that end scene with Elysia. The tortured laugh, with tears streaming down his face, really hit the mark. I like that they laid the groundwork with Rand and Elysia. It wasn't just some rando child. This was someone he had a deep connection with, and it is going to do lasting emotional damage. So when Rand's psyche takes a darker turn, we can understand where it's coming from. And just also about Rand, Ken W. says, our little Rand is all grown up and ready to destroy the world. With the Aiel bending the knee, who will stop him now? What a build-up in episode 8 to a fantastic climax. And what I have to ask you guys is, would you rather be Rand, bow to Rand, or watch Couladin break before Rand?
I'm sorry. Repeat the choices because that's a lot. That was a lot to take in.
Would you rather be Rand, bow to Rand, or watch Couladin break before Rand?
And number 3. What is this, a competition? I don't want to be Rand. He's going crazy. I don't want to bow to Rand because he's going to destroy as many people around him as he saves. And I would love to see Rand beat up Couladin. Budget call Drogo. I won't stand to call him anything else.
Mark, what did you think of Couladin from the book to screen?
I like him more on screen because we haven't seen much of him. So I'll say, like, the fact that the Forsaken give him the fake sort of dragon tattoos, right, was not immediately clear to me when reading this book series. It took a while before I figured that out. I don't know if it's because I'm skipping through the dream sequences, or if it's because I missed something, or if it is subtly explained. But it comes off as just this huge affront that he's. What do you mean you didn't go to Ruidin? We know you didn't like, and so it makes it a little bit more appreciable and like understandable that he knows it's fake, but also he hates this. I think they're setting up good stuff. I think they need to explain him a little more as a villain or as an antagonist, because what did they I feel like in one sentence, Savannah rushed through like the most complicated family dynamic ever. It's like, my husband was the chief and he died, and so his son, or like, did she marry his son or something? And then his brother is now here. Like, and you're like, what? Like, that's a complicated little, and they sort of just went right through it. And now we have this sort of angsty young man there, and we don't really know what he is, but now we know what he means in the story. And so I like that. I think it's cool. I also want to see him get beaten up by Rand. I don't think being Rand, I think being Rand right now doesn't look so bad, but remember the Logain stuff in season 1, everybody, when he's got like black spirit people whispering in his ear? He is headed towards madness.
And that's not a secret, right? Like, we know that this is the fate of all men who channel.
Yeah,
it's a certainty in the sort of cosmology, right? And whether those whispers are madness or those whispers are, your past life and Luz Theron and all these things, is an open question that causes people to probably declare themselves to be the Red Dragon Reborn, in most cases falsely. But that's not a cool state of being that nobody should want to be Rand, at least not 6 months from now in the timeline.
Right. So, Jean, let me put this question your way. What do you think is the biggest Rand glow up this season? His power set, his quickie masters and Aiel culture, or his relationship with Moraine?
His relationship with Moraine. I think it's the entire season was worth it for that as well. I'm glad that he's getting to be more in control of himself, of his powers and all of that stuff. I'm happy for that. But it's the personal growth that I've seen from him. Outside of that, in his relationship with Moraine, where he's like, I understand what you had to do, but I got to do some things too. You know what I mean? It's you just read something that said, our little boy Rand has all grown, and it feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like
Mm-hmm.
he's grown, and I attribute it to specifically going through the past, experiencing that, and understanding the weight that is currently on his shoulders and what it all means. I think that helped him to grow into what we're seeing at the end of the the season. So yeah, his relationship with Moraine is much more on equal footing. I don't know if it's, I want to say it's 50-50. She still has, I don't know how many 100 years of life worth experience more than he has. But yeah, I really like that their relationship has come into more of an equal footing than it was in the past 2 seasons.
Okay. And Mark, who do you think Moraine had a closer relationship to this season, Rand, Lan, or her hat?
The hat. Yeah. I actually think it's weird because I agree with everything Jean just said. Like the way that relationship kind of climaxed at the end is great. Like it showed a lot of maturity from both of them, not just Rand. I think that she kind of grew to a place where she could release some amount of trust to him.
Yes.
I feel like the Lan and Moraine thing was a little underused this season, and that's too bad because last season they were overused in a frustrating way, maybe of sort of the extended period where they were fighting, so to speak. I kind of wanted a little more of their interactions this season.
We got the
hats.
moment.
I think the hat has already been made fun of plenty. I think the hats in Tanchico
I like the hat.
are cooler. I like the Tanchico hats. I like the Elaine singing hat. I like some of that. I think, doesn't Lanfear have a really preposterous looking thing on her head or something in the last year? Maybe that's just like like a cape, like a vampire cape kind of thing.
It's actually, if you zoom in on it, it's a moon. It's like a moon and it has the moon pattern on the side, like with the craters and stuff.
It's just amazing that in this, a little bit dystopian world, they have a hot topic.
I mean, that was haute couture in the Age of Legends, like for the one who swore themselves to the dark. Okay. John, do you have any final thoughts on Rand or before we take a break?
Rand is my son and he's done nothing wrong.
Okay, fair enough. Let's take a break. Okay, we got an email today from a new listener, Gina R., who just literally like 2 hours before we recorded. So we're going to hear some general thoughts from her later, but she especially was excited to talk about episode 4. So here's what she said about that. Just wow. Did you notice that the grandfather who expelled Rand's ancestor Lewin for committing violence was Adon, who along with his grandfather Jonai remained faithful to their oaths and struggled across the spine together when the others returned to cities after their wagons were attacked? That's how that group of Tuathon have the sapling Avendasora. So yeah, we see an old man in one of Rand's visions, and then in the next vision we see him as a child, basically, when the Tuathon split off. The older Adon is still wearing the cap and vest you see him in as a child. I'm not there in the books yet, so I don't know if this is true in the timeline, but my thoughts as a show-only watcher and parent, I struggled with the idea of a mother turning away her own son for rescuing her other child. But her father presumably would have been deeply committed to the way of the leaf, therefore making the banishing more believable. This might be okay. So we'll pause there, and Sean, we know you want everyone who practices the way of the leaf to kick rocks.
Yeah, they gotta go. The leaf is not, it's not cool. It's not good. I understand people wanting to live in peace. wanting to bring that about into the world that they inhabit. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But the extremes that they go to ensure that this happens and that each generation is fulfilling this ideal that they don't even know why they swore by the time I'm watching the series is ridiculous. Like seeing those moments where they banish others for not allowing horrific acts to happen to others, right? For being selfless in that way. And still, it's like, yeah, you saved that baby. But you know what? You can't be down anymore. You gotta go. Nobody wants you around. You saved the baby. Nobody wants you around. Like, what is that? Like, how does one, I can't wrap my head around that. I can't get over it. And I can't just say, this is their culture. This is their way. Update your shit. Like, cultures, things need updating, right? I was raised Catholic.
Too dogmatic.
Yes, I was raised Catholic, Catholicism needed some updating. You know what I mean? There's like things that need to change from the way that you did something 3,000 years ago. So I'm not down with the way of the leaf, and I just cannot understand how it's just like ho-hum. Oh, well, there's another person who, won't be, traveling with us anymore. This is...
They have updated.
How?
Yeah. They've updated kind of in the opposite... They became vegetarian. Like, back in the day, they're like, a spear is better than a sword.
Yes.
Because...
But wait, who became vegetarian? Because I thought that just the IEO gave up being... Or, you're saying that
the whole reason why thousands of years ago, so the movie told us, the movie that Rand watched, told us that like they thought the spear was cool because you could feed yourself with a spear.
Yes.
Later generations, the Aiel clearly kept that, right? They kept the idea, but those of them that stayed pacifist eventually eschewed the idea of hunting your food in general, right? So they actually added to their dogma, and I'm not saying anything negative about vegetarianism, but
I think it's more that the other group gave up that, probably because it was hard to grow plants in the waste or something like that. But I assume that the Tuathan, or that the Daishan IEO were vegetarians until they...
I thought the spears were just like skewers, basically.
No, but they said,
you're holding it to the flip.
For the squashes. For the squashes.
A spear can get you your dinner. They said something like a spear can get you your dinner. That means they're killing a creature.
But that's after they separated from the ones who kept the way of the original, the ones who said we're separating because we don't want to guard the Aes Sedai shit anymore or go into the desert. They're the ones who stayed vegetarians, is my interpretation. Because
so we're supposed to understand that in between those two things, they started hunting and killing animals. It seems more likely that they just, like, we weren't shown that, so why would I assume they were, like, I don't know. Like, we know that the Tuatha are vegetarian. We know that those people weren't. So
eventually, yeah. But I mean, for me, I guess we are free to both make our opposite assumptions. But my assumption is definitely that anthropologically, I think it makes more sense that they just maintain their vegetarianism, and it would have been easier for them to do so in the wetlands.
I agree with whichever one of you spoke last. I think we should look. Sometimes you got to kick some rocks to build a quarry.
You do, and you know what? This is like it really bothers me. Like, this is part of the story. This is part of the mythology of this series that really grates on me. And I'm not saying grates on me like I hate it, like, but it's really something that I think about and I really don't like, right? And this, and I guess it's broader for me in that sense, because I think, in real life, in my real life, I tried not to be as dogmatic as they are, right? And I tend to shy away from traditions that are that way. So to have it on screen, just, so stark and just they don't make a distinction. It's like, I don't care. There's no room for interpretation. There's no room for, leeway. And that sort of terrible. No matter if it's peaceful or not, it is still terrible. So
Too dogmatic. Okay.
at least people can go.
And the listener is mentioning the mother disowning, but like there's also the daughter. Like as a parent, I have a son and a daughter. The last time I disowned my son for saving the life of my daughter, she at least didn't put him out on blast. She at least was on his side. And so I was like, really? You sold him out? He saved your life. You knew you were going to be tortured and killed probably or something. The fact that the daughter is so like brainwashed, so to speak. That she's like, she knows he's done. They're not going to kill him, but that he's out of their family. And she still feels the need to rat him out.
Yeah.
And like I said, last time I disowned my son, like my 7-year-old daughter, she stuck up for him, and, and now he's back in the house, it's just crazy to me. These people, I'm with you. And you know what? It is interesting. I feel like it hits harder in this show because in the book, you see the Tuatha many more times. And yeah, they're frustrating, but there's more internal struggle about the virtues of their life. I think you see some characters really struggle with it and actually find the beauty in that life and wish they could live in that world, sort of. Whereas here, you're just faced with like, he saved a baby, bro, and you're taking him out. Like it feels more like I guess put it this way: the showrunners have put their thumb on the scale in a way that maybe Jordan wasn't. I think Jordan actually wanted us to really wonder if wouldn't it maybe be better if Perrin and Egwene did just stay with these people, right? I don't know.
I mean, Perrin can go wherever he wants to go.
John, is Illa a villain?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Were you asking me? Because I thought you were asking
Yes,
John.
I'm asking you.
See, this is the problem, John. We got two close names here. I said this on the podcast, and I think you disagree with me, Elysia, but I said, if your personal philosophy requires you to let a baby die, your philosophy is evil. Like, I don't care what the rules are that you have. If your philosophy lets you watch an infant in arms just be slaughtered, then I think that your philosophy is fucked up.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of things that are fucked up, Sub-Zero said sending Samael to the waste was a win-win for Lanfear. It pushed Rand closer to embracing his powers and the darkness. At the same time, it eliminated a bitter adversary. And to top it all off, Rand and Egwene broke up. A banner episode for Lanfear.
Oh, God.
So,
are we going to talk about betraying Dark Oath later in the feedback?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Then, yeah, sure. Win-win for Lanfear.
Do you guys think it was the best death, or do you think Eamon Valda burning, or Ispan Shefar's fingers through the face? What do you think is the best death of the season?
Oh, fingers to the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like the blood strands web.
That was the most creative one for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of think that the showrunners need some therapy if they're thinking this.
Fingers to the face for me. I thought that was just like spectacular. Maybe that says something about me, but it was just gorgeously done. I loved it.
Even we were talking about the flashbacks, the visions, when they, when they go to get the girls and they commit the violence, it was a total face-off situation. I did not expect that. There's some good deaths this season. There are also some sad deaths this season. We have 2 comments about Melindra's death. First, from Alex L. He says, and this is going to be about the oaths. I
did not read forward one sentence. Sorry.
So we have Sub-Zero, by the way, who's also a reader. I loved Melindra's sacrifice. Her allegiance to Malkir was even stronger than her dark oath, and it will have a strong impact on Lan. I hope in season 4 we see the golden crane flying again. It was cool to see Melindra with that red mark on her forehead. I think that's a Malkiri thing. And yeah, we talked about that. It's a Kisan. And the fact that it was red means she's married, I guess, to the Spears. So Sub-Zero likes the change they made to the Dark Oath. Alex L is questioning it. He says, we do have an example of breaking your Dark Oaths in the books. And then, there's a book spoiler in which someone mentions the color green. Book readers know what we're talking about. This is a classic exception that proves the rule. One simply cannot willingly break a Dark Oath, just as one cannot break an Aes Sedai Oath. So what were you, Mark, you wanted to talk about oaths. What do you have? Is this playing into it, what these two have said at all?
Yeah, so it's really about that Dark Oath and the fact that breaking it causes Melindra to die. And I'm wondering, what is that supposed to, if anything, tell us? Not talking spoilers here, but based on what they're presenting, what does that tell us about Lanfear and her attesting to Rand, I'm going to kill the Dark One? Like, at what point, like, does that tell us that she has that she is in fact lying to Rand, that she has no intention of that, or the moment she took an action in that direction would she die? Right? It's an interesting kind of thing, and noting that there are certain characters in season 2 that died that we didn't get to see this kind of thing happen with, which is interesting. And I'm just wondering kind of what the implications of this are. Like, are we supposed to interpret any time, let's say next season, Lanfear, the will they, won't they about Rand and Lanfear comes back and makes her claims, or did the showrunners program us to always assume any dark friend is always lying? Or because if they say that, they automatically die? Like, what's the threshold at which, when did Melindra, it wasn't when she decided, was it when she decided to spare Lan that she started to die? Was it when she put voice to it? Like, it's just sort of an interesting thing that I don't know if we're supposed to be unpacking it like I am or what, but thoughts on that?
John, do you have thoughts on that as a reader?
I do think this might be an inconsistency that Mark has discovered here, and I have no defense for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we have to see, because Lanfear's, even as book readers, we don't really completely know what Lanfear thinks or feels, or how much is bullshit. Yeah. So it's really hard to say. I don't know if she even always knows what she thinks and feels, really.
Yeah, she's
in the middle of all of our games.
Look, she's just looking hot and causing problems. That's her whole thing.
She's thinking about her next look.
Exactly.
I would say, from a storyteller perspective, I think you two said that this is a book change, right? A show change?
Yeah, about the Dark Oaths.
About the fact that you just insta-die.
Yeah.
I feel like they've given themselves a new limitation. They've taken away a dramatic tool, which is, are the Dark Friends liars if they say something good? Like, if they seem like they're about to help you, even if the characters don't know that, from the audience perspective, is it almost an unforced error that now they might one day want to go, well, we want Padden Fane to, like, save a baby one day or whatever, and then, like, they can't now because we're expecting him to die instantly.
They didn't take an oath ever. Like, I mean, yeah, Padden Fane saving a baby. Yeah, we'll see. But it's not like Padden Fane took an oath that said, "I will never save a baby." That's too specific. There's wiggle room within the oath.
Well, did Melindra take an oath that said she will kill?
Yes.
Lan?
Well, they take an oath that they will obey a direct order, and she got a direct order from Lanfear.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's right. Because part of what's baked into being a dark friend is this subterfuge, right? Is this idea that you have to blend in, and sometimes you got to be nice so that people don't suspect you. That's why you have the green and yellow Asha members just running around like, do. Oh, I'm evil.
Yeah, by the way.
Right. After probably being good most of the time in their daily duties, right?
Right.
So you would say then, Lanfear did not make an oath, I will not kill you, Dark One. And so she hasn't, I don't know.
If she didn't make that direct, look at the Aes Sedai. That's how their oaths work.
Maybe the Dark One is like, I can't be killed. Like, maybe the Dark One it's hubris, right? Like, I don't need to make you swear an oath to not kill me. I can just kill you before you get to me.
Right.
All right, well, sliding into the Forsaken and other villainy, /Tim says, I appreciate the quote-unquote bad guys having backstories and believable motivations. So much of fantasy is riddled with I'm evil just because, or this entire race is evil because they're evil. It's refreshing to have the story humanize an otherwise one-dimensional character. I have to say, it came up on the server, especially a few times with Leandrin, how they humanized her, but then also people say, and then she did Leandrin stuff. So it's also a favorite of mine, is the way that they humanize in the story, and I think they're doing a great job on the TV show. And just to add a couple more to that, Abby says, Moggy really comes in to show how young, experienced, and helpless all our heroes/heroines are. Chilling. And Dopamini says, it was cool to see how unique Mogedian's style of villainy is when she used her magic on Elaine and Nynaeve. So childlike and happy, which made it extra creepy. I loved that scene. Is it still called a weave for the Forsaken? And yes, although, John, what's the, I feel like we need to define for people again the difference between the one power and the true power.
Mark, you've got your
I
mouth
can't
open.
believe
You're ready.
y'all are talking about that. That is a late book spoiler, I think.
They showed it in the finale.
But they didn't.
But they're not telling us yet. I do agree with you, Mark.
Okay,
So
but she said
says
she
this thing-
bored through to get to...
Right. She's like, there might be a true power, lowercase t, lowercase p, that might be. And you all are like, yeah, she's got black flecks in her eye. It's called Saw. It means she's drawing the power of the Dark One. It's like, yeah, that's like book 12 when you learn that. So, audience,
all right.
if you've listened, like, no, it's fine. But like, so there
are people who complain all the time about having different definitions of spoilers. It's a really difficult line to walk.
It doesn't,
because then other people will complain both ways.
It doesn't matter. It's not a big reveal, but we're not supposed to know the difference, I guess, between the one power and the true power is how I would answer that.
Hold on. So the one power is not the true power, and the true power is not the one power?
The one power is also called the true source, but it is not the true power,
confusing,
which is very confusing, and Robert Jordan should be embarrassed about it.
The one source. Now, don't get me started on the one
Okay, well, we'll just say we saw Lanfear having this inky black stuff she's channeling rather than like what we see other Aes Sedai channeling.
Look, there's something else you could use. I don't, we haven't talked about where it comes from exactly, about maybe we have talked about where it comes from.
You have. That's why I'm surprised. Like,
okay.
You can,
we did.
It's not like you're noting, like, because she did drop the name True Power, but it's a long time in the books where this stuff is being done with power, and none of the people that channel who can presumably detect the power being used notice it, right? They don't know what's going on, and you find out longer in the book that, okay, there's this other thing called the True Power that like old, like regular person Lanfear, Mirren or whatever said the words, oh, we're looking for a true power, but we don't know that.
And then you saw her channeling different from everybody else. Doesn't that mean anything?
Yeah, but they haven't put it together yet. I see Mark's point and I see Alicia's point. I think they're both valid.
Okay.
I'm
I'm just saying I'm surprised you did it, because you generally are very
I don't consider it a spoiler. I really don't consider it a spoiler, because I think it's been, and there's a lot of things that they tell on screen, but then they will repeat it. And it's the same as the books. They lay the groundwork. Like if you listen, in the first book, there's a section where Rand and Matt are falling to sleep in a wagon, and they have the entire, like someone lists the entire lineage of Kyrie and Andor, which is full of spoilers, and you just don't pick it up on your first time,
right?
Reading, and then you go back and you're like, holy shit. And the show does the same thing, and I do take the standpoint that I think people want us to not tell, like, oh, that character actually is a secret dark friend or something like that. Stick around for the White Tower for that, not this episode, but previously. But I think that people do want us to point out, oh, that Taviran word they keep saying, here's what it means, even though they haven't really explained it yet.
I do think that there is a distinction between like world building, quote unquote, spoilers and plot point spoilers. So I see what you're saying there, Elysia.
Yeah.
I don't even think people would have thought about it if Mark hadn't just taken us to task. So I welcome, I'm going to send every single review and email that we get right to Mark's inbox.
I'll take some fan mail. So
All right,
I will say, in the defense of you talking about it, the major difference in the way this story is being told versus the books is that we see the weaves, with the exception of when they're trying to hide that Rand is channeling in the first season. We're seeing male channelers, we're seeing female channelers, whereas in the books, if you don't have Rand there and a man is channeling, we would have no idea it's happening. We don't see, there's no reason, like the characters aren't seeing the black, like, Venom costume, symbiote stuff coming out over. I don't think they're seeing it. We are seeing it. And that is the showrunners saying, this is something weird going on. Look at how she looks kind of like she's tainted like Rand, but not quite the same. So it is being treated much less as this secret here because they've just painted it in black, right?
Yeah.
In a way that you don't have secret channelers in this show except for whatever they did in the season 1. And maybe that's an inconsistency in storytelling, but they kind of, I feel like that's over now. If they have a secret Aes Sedai like channeling in a scene now, I feel like we would be kind of robbed by that.
Okay.
You know?
All right. I have an more important question for all of you. I'm going to start with you, Mark, since you're talking. Dream Blunt rotation, bad guy edition. Everyone pick 3 of the villains from this series who you would want as your Dream Blunt villain rotation, and one who is never invited. What would you say, Mark?
My options are any
villain. I listed some in the notes here just for reference, but
so Moghedien is never invited. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, she's the worst. She's well-crafted villain. Like, she's hateable, but she's not not at all. Yeah. I'm going Ishamael, Lanfear, and God, Naomi, maybe?
Okay. What about you, John?
For my herbal tea rotation and nothing else.
Oh, sure.
I will say, yeah, all right. Moghedien, no.
Is she the never?
Lanfear for sure. She's pretty chill. Oh, this is so tough. They all suck.
Yes.
All right. I feel like Elida would bring gossip. So,
oh yeah, good one.
All right, I'll go with her. And
good additions, Mark.
And there's people that I want, but they're not revealed yet.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So
sorry.
All right.
We do have to stick with what's revealed.
All right. I do think Ishamael would be like, let's put on planet Earth and just chill out for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's have him as a third.
All right. Jean, what about you? 3 yes, 4 never. 1 never.
Okay. I would say Ishmael, Raven, and I chill with the elfin dude.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm also going to go with Raven because he's charming, you know? He's a terrible person, but he's super charming. I also feel like Ishamael would be chill. And I don't know, is the last... I don't know. I mean, the Eelfin would be fun for like 5 minutes, but I'm going to go with...
The Eelfin goes, you were wise to ask for me to pass, but unwise to not specify a cost.
I can't do the fox thing.
I feel he got stories, though.
For your third.
He got stories. He has stories.
Hey, I wonder if that, and he's done.
Yeah, he got stories.
He's got stories.
But he would have dope stories to tell.
All right. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. And so for my third, I'm going to go with Savannah, but she has to wear the hat that she's wearing the first time.
All right.
My never, I don't know. Like, Couladin would be so unchill, but I feel like I have to go with Valda. He burns witches. Valda is not invited.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he's
pretty bad.
He's pretty terrible.
All right, so rank from least to most vile. Food tasting with Moghedien and Teleron Riyadh. Ravin moves into your house, quote unquote, for a week. Valda chats up your mom. Or you become part of the Eelfin's human suit after your death. Which...
You need therapy too, Elysia, not just the showrunners.
Are you asking? Are we supposed to be legitimately considering whether being skinned alive
Yes.
or dead is?
No,
So that was the
dead.
last
I
one.
said dead.
After my death. Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
We're gonna take a
Yeah.
quick break. I'm just,
Oh.
I think it's Rob. The truth is, like, Ravin maybe is trying to take over the world or whatever, but it's not clear that would be unpleasant for the person he's crashing with, right? More gays might actually be having a good old time for the few months he's been there, right? I'm sure her power base is decomposing around her as he does all sorts of machinations, but I would see that's the least vile of those.
Okay. All right. Even less vile than food tasting with
Oh
Moghedien?
God, no.
No, but
Who would want to do that?
I would rather do that than let Valda chat up my mom. But I agree. I don't want to become a skin suit. So there we go.
I think that's the order,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, speaking of the eelfin, I do have toe. I said something about the eelfin CGI, and it's actually all practical makeup. They actually invented
yeah.
a new way of doing it. They basically put this like black glue all over his skin, and then they blew these individual hairs into it and used
my
like a
gosh.
magnet to line them all up so they could make it look like a pelt.
Wow.
that's awesome.
So
Wow.
I wasn't forced to say my opinion on a podcast, but I would have completely. I actually was. Two things I was critical in that episode was the CG of the chain that pulls Nynaeve down into the water felt very fake to me. And I was going to criticize the CG of the eelfin. It looked a little too shimmery, but the fact that it's like, that makes it cool that it's a practical effect.
Yeah.
Like, if they could create such a surreal effect without CG, that's pretty impressive.
yeah.
That guy got up at 3 a.m, and you know that was like
Absolutely.
a terrible
He's
idea.
7 hours. Well, so this is what's his name? Robert sorry, I'm forgetting his last name.
Like,
but
Strange, right?
yeah, you're right. Robert
Got
Strange.
a great name.
Yeah, it's a great name for it. But he says like they approached me for this part. He was also Glug in Rings of Power.
Right.
And he says, they approached him for this part because he has developed a reputation as being, he can act, but he also doesn't mind sitting in a makeup chair for 7 hours.
Wow.
Does he not mind it, or is that just people are like, he's done it before, so he's fine?
I
Let's
mean,
just
I think
keep
he
beating him
just,
up.
A little
he
bit of
seems
both.
like, I've seen a bunch of interviews with him now, and he seems like he has a chill enough personality that he's just like, yeah, sure.
This is meditation time.
He's like, I get to look awesome afterwards. So,
Good podcast
yeah.
listening.
But another thing I only learned about afterwards is the fact that, the eel skin, the eelfin,
You're just trying to skin everybody.
well, they are wearing skins. It is that Sharon Gilliam, the costume designer, she made it like a bunch of faces that are woven together in his vest. And Dopamini said about that fin in the face vest, this reminds me of a Japanese folk story about a wolfish monster that takes children's belly buttons during thunderstorms. It's called the Raiju. So it's interesting. And it also made me think of there's Native American myths about the skinwalkers, which are basically people who put on animal skins and turn into animals. And I'm like, oh, it's just kind of like a reversed skinwalker. But also one more thing I have toe about is there is, when Matt comes out of the eelfin space, he is hanging, and I didn't notice that he is hanging from something that looks like a pole arm, like a naginata, an ashandarai, a spear with a long sword, like half sword, half spear kind of situation going on.
I thought it was a spear.
So that,
Like,
the Aiel spears have been kind of looking like this, but it's called something different in the books.
Oh, okay,
but we didn't
okay,
think
okay.
that he got it. And then it was pointed out that actually that's what he's hanging from when he comes out of the door.
Oh, that's
Totally
cool.
missed it.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
exactly. So they'll draw more attention next season, but I wonder
They'll
if they'll
just
go
circle
back.
it.
Is that like an
flashback.
important thing
Yeah,
in the books?
That's his whole thing. Yeah.
it's something we expected him to come out to have when he came out of this encounter.
Oh.
It's not
Okay.
super important.
Okay.
It's like a vibe thing, though.
It's his
like,
personal look. Yeah. It's part of the
Yeah.
I know
vibe.
it has story significance,
All right.
but even if they cut that whole arc, it's just sort of like Matt has that and he has a hat. And he kind of always has those two things. And he doesn't have the hat, at least not yet. But like Moiraine jokes aside, like that she stole it.
There's
or
a
whatever,
couple
someone made
things
that
that
joke.
he still needs.
But
I mean,
Yeah.
So-
you don't have Cap without
It's
the
like-
shield. You don't have Matt without the Ashendare, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is it a magical hat?
No, it's just a look.
hat.
He just has a look. Yeah,
it's just it's vibes.
All right.
Yeah, it's
all right.
vibes. It's his look he rocks. Okay, so we got some feedback on this topic. Kat said, Matt walking through each arch just made me mad. I think that's why I don't care for this character. Like, did he not hear Min? Does he have no awareness of his surroundings? You live in a world with magic. Why not be wary of weird things? And yeah, I get it, but also I kind of love that about Matt, that he's the one who just like blunders into things.
Look, we all know there's people who like walk into sinkholes because they're just not looking, right? Like this is not uncommon in the real world either.
But you know,
it's true.
To that point, I had a problem with Matt in the first two seasons. Like I didn't particularly care for his character, and I thought that this season is when I kind of like was like, all right, this I want to see more of him being rational and being not floundering and not just walking through the world like head in the clouds always, which I thought was what his deal was in the first two seasons, being of course plagued by these voices in his head or whatever. But yeah, I think this season, especially when he had the fight with the princes, I really relished that. I thought that was a great moment for him, for me, to kind of be like, all right, this guy is he's starting to take this whole thing a little bit more seriously. And I appreciated that. So I can understand where, the email is coming from saying that, they can't stand Matt. Like, what are you doing just walking into archways? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Because I felt that way for the first two seasons.
Yeah, it is his character, but it is, as as Swan pointed out this season, he is both. He is, the party boy who seems like he's not really there until it really comes down to it, and then he does things.
I feel like, can I just say on that?
Yeah.
I feel like this show is clarifying in this season a lot of different takes on the reluctant hero sort of archetype. Like Matt is the reluctant hero like Han Solo. He's like, fine, I'll risk my life to save everybody, but really I'd rather just be gambling or whatever, right? Perrin is the reluctant hero who's like too humble, like I don't want this kind of stuff, right? Rand is the
bring in Jon
reluctant hero
Snow for it. So
right, he's very Jon Snow. Rand is the reluctant hero. Like I'm sick of people using me. Like everybody has an angle. Like I don't want this. We're starting to see that. Like he feels sort of like pulled by too many people. And even Nynaeve, it's like she's afraid of her power, or at least that's what seems to be implied by some of, And then like Egwene doesn't seem to be all that reluctant. Egwene and Elaine feel like they more want to like use what they have to tackle a problem. So I don't know to what extent, Tom Marilyn even, kind of reluctant hero. There's a lot of takes on this archetype in this story, and they're all subtly different. And Matt's might frustrate certain types of people sometimes because part of that archetype is he's kind of haphazard. And yeah, you really hate magical items. Why aren't you looking where you're going then? Right? Like, I'm sick of this blasted bloody magic or whatever. Well, act differently, but that's kind of who he is, I guess.
A good point.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And by the way, just to give a different interpretation to Jean, you said you really liked the weirdness of the Finn. I hope I'm saying this correctly, sorry if I'm not, Angua Lupin said, the only real complaint I have about the finale is that the fin really felt like it came out of left field. I think the showrunner should have done a bit more of a build up throughout the season so they weren't just dropping these alternate reality aliens on us and then breezing on by because it's a finale and the story has got other places to be. Hey, dude, there are these wish-granting aliens you can visit if you want. Don't worry about it. Let's go talk about Rand. And you kind of already said this earlier, Mark, but I do have to say that that's how it happened. In the book, it's also just like really sudden where Matt wanders through a door randomly and finds them. So it is.
But they've given us parallel universes and stuff like that in book 2 that they cut from the show, right? So they've at least,
That's true.
But this is not like those parallel universes. We see some of that with Moraine's visions, but this is something different. Yeah. Okay. John, do you want to read Marilyn's feedback?
Wait, which John? Which Jean or John?
You.
Me? Me? Okay, the eelfin. Anyway, since I've heard nothing about the eelfin, sound like a combination of Sir Terry Pratchett's elves, pretty horrible creatures who I can easily see making leather wear out of human faces, and leprechauns with their 3 wishes. I think leprechauns were supposed to be more tricky than anything else, but Pratchett's elves were real evil. You would never see them granting wishes, I promise you that. As for iron, musical instruments and light makers, the iron is simple. Iron has been known as extremely bad for all the different kinds of fair folk in the Irish and other stories for as far back as anyone can remember. The theory that it's a reflection of the indigenous people on these islands who lived during the Bronze Age being bested by invaders with iron weapons and so driven out or underground. This is why the blacksmith was considered such a potent magician. His making steel out of dirt was considered to be a masterpiece of alchemy. And since they always had things like horseshoes to hand, they were very good at warding off unwanted visits from the gentry. As the Siddha?
Yeah.
What? Excuse me?
It's Irish.
Okay. The Irish, they're always making up sounds. We're sometimes referred to. I don't know. Have you, John, have you seen Gaelic written out? I mean, they make up their sounds. They just make it up.
I think it's people make up spellings in Latin languages. But
No, I think
Roman
they made
letters.
up the sounds. Okay, as for musical instruments, they were some elves and fairies' favorite tools for enchanting humans. Perhaps the fear was that a human magician would come in with greater musical power than theirs and wreak havoc on their kingdoms. There are 1 or 2 stories like that. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that Tom, the Gleeman, had entered Wheel of Time's version of the she. Oh, so Marilyn actually gives the pronunciation the second time. The she mound that bested them and escaped unharmed. The she mounds were the entrances to the kingdoms of the fair folk, considered as portals to another world. So that tracks with doors into alternate realms. Tolkien's elves in the Silmarillion mostly built their kingdoms underground or very carefully hidden, such as Gondolin, which seems to me to be his representation of what the Irish would call the she-mounds. I'm not sure why they'd be afraid of light makers unless I am misunderstanding that. Something about bringing the light of one world into another, perhaps. Elves are famously associated with starlight and moonlight, so perhaps the form of light from a different universe does them harm.
I think that's a lot of really interesting insight. But John, you're the one who would be able to respond best to the comparisons with Tolkien and Pratchett.
Pratchett, I don't think I've ever read any of his books that have elves in them, surprisingly. Which is interesting, because I've read like 10 Discworld novels, I think, but none of them had elves in them. I guess that's just the series that I've been hanging around, but the Tolkien one I could speak more to. I mean, I see what she's saying, like, that's like a whole thing in the first age where like we have like the girdle of Melian guarding Doriath. We have Gondolin hidden very carefully in these paths. We have Nargothrond being this tunnel, this cave kingdom so that it's hidden from Morgoth. But also like it's not just the evil you keep out, right? It's just the regular men too. Like they can't enter your kingdom. And if they do, then they can't leave.
Okay, well, there's definitely some similarities there.
Yeah. But there's no wish granting in those, so that's the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's very Robert Jordan to just like sample from here and there and recombine it, which it makes sense in, the way the world is always what's old is new and comes again in the next age and all that. Yeah.
Right.
So we're veering into the Tanchico plotline. Doob71 said, the Hills of Tanchico episode has blown up my socials. Those thirsty Wheel of Timers sure enjoyed Tanchico and the whole Moggy simping over Nynaeve. After listening to the mid-season mailbag, I checked back with Shelley, his wife, to see how she, as a non-book reader, is getting on this season. She really is enjoying it. Every now and then, she'll just ask a question to establish a minor bit of lore or plot points. But apart from that, she's on board for the ride. People are loving the song. And so I have to say the composer, Nikhil Koparkar, sorry if I put the accents on the wrong syllables, but he's been doing like AMAs and stuff online.
That's cool. We love a transparent person. I was going to say king, but then I didn't know if it was a man or a woman. Or non-binary.
Yeah, no, it's a him.
It's a him. Okay, we love a transparent king. Here we go.
But yeah, Hills of Tanchico, just got that song out of my head. It's only because another one got stuck there.
It's a good song.
All right, should we take a quick break here and then come back and talk more Tanchico? So let's check back in with Dopamini, who wanted to talk about about Nynaeve. And she says, it's intriguing to me how Nynaeve keeps seeing the child from her vision through the arches in her dreams. And again, when Leandrin has bound her and thrown her into the water to die, I'm beginning to think this is a real daughter from her future. She and Lan are going to have this baby. I don't know if we'll see it, but I'm placing internet points on it. She will become real. I hope her block and channeling is finally over with this experience of surviving Leandrin. This problem has lasted more than enough time for me. If she's the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years, it's time to wrap up her inability to use that power, get her out there using it, building a reputation based on what she's doing and not what she could possibly eventually do. And yes, I am all for Nynaeve being done with her block.
Dopamini, look, we suffered much longer in the books.
It's true.
The Nynaeve having a block is like one of the most drawn out plot lines I have ever read in this series. It is forever. It's book like 7 or 8 that she breaks it.
That's terrible.
And it was like this. It was a little bit different circumstances, but it was like this. So I think we're good in the show.
Yeah, she could, in the books, there was a time when she could occasionally like break through it with a strong emotion. And I think we did see that. That's how, we saw it when she saved Lan. We saw it, a couple times when it really was needed. But I hope this is that look on her face afterwards where she seemed satisfied. And, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take it as her...
I hated it. I that look drove me insane. It drove me insane.
Love a competent queen.
Just like,
look, you have to understand. In the book, first of all, the block lasts longer in the books. Second of all, Nynaeve is mean in the books, even meaner. And 3, Nynaeve is really insecure, and so she's really mean about the block in the book. Like, she's always yelling at people about her own emotional, sticking points. And so it does, in the books, when it finally breaks, you're like, oh, thank God, we can start tolerating this character more. And I know I'm being harsh, but...
No, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, but it is also true that as far as her having that look of pleasure on her face, it is about... finally breaking through something where she was watching horrible things happen to the people around her and she couldn't help. And now she's finally breaking through. But it is also, as they were making clear with like Moraine playing with her new Sarkhanen toy, whatever it's called, that it feels very pleasurable to embrace the power like that. So she was literally having she just got a huge dopamine, ultra blast through her body by embracing the power.
Dopamine
like that.
understands.
Exactly. That's why I use that version.
That's fun.
So why do you hate it? Why do you, that moment? Because I know you have you didn't like the block, Jean, but like that moment.
No, that moment for me felt almost it. I just felt, and the whole episode was about finding this thing, right? And she found the thing, and when they found the thing, she's cradling it, and they had decided whoever found it, just go. We can't let her have this. We just gotta go, right? And then Leandrin tells her, "Oh, you could have just left. You're sticking around. What you sticking around for? You should have just left." Boom, takes it away from her. God knows what's going to happen next. And she's under the water, chained up, and now she's feeling the power. Let me, it's starting to tingle. She's starting to say, yeah, I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. You should have did this last season. Like, you could have done this at the beginning of this season. I had no reason to celebrate her block, given that it happened, the breaking of her blockage of accessing the power, right? Given that it happened after she let Leandrin get the what is it called, the Adnan,
or I think they're saying Adam on the show, actually.
Adam with an M,
like an Adam, yeah.
Adam. Okay, yeah, that's right. You let her get it, and now that she has it, but you have, unleashed the force. I'm supposed to feel good that you unleashed the force. I didn't. I didn't feel happy for you in this moment, in this context. I felt like you failed. You did something for yourself. Bravo. But in the grander scheme of things, you failed. And that really...
I
you don't like the sense of self-satisfaction.
Yeah.
I didn't feel, it didn't sit well. It didn't sit. So, and I watched her, and what you just said, Elysia, about the sense of euphoria that she's getting this from accessing the power, that maybe gives me a different take on it. That it wasn't like this whole, self, building up that she's doing in that moment. Maybe the emotion has overtaken her. The dopamine levels have risen, and that is why she feels and looks as though she's accomplished. And because the first time I watched it, I'm like, why do you have this look on your face?
All right.
The thing.
I'm so far away from you now, Jean. I mean, look, I'll give you this.
That's
I'll
okay.
give you this. That
it's all right.
While she was on the ocean floor, she did a lot of kicking. I'm sure there were some rocks there. But for me, I'm just like, this is someone who's been told for the last couple years, you are the most powerful channeler in the last 1,000 years, and yet every time her friends are in danger, she's helpless, and she's felt. She went from somebody who was in total control of her life as the wisdom of this village to someone who's completely helpless in a new environment and who feels like a failure this whole time. And now all of a sudden she is not only free, but she has agency again. She has agency in her life to help and protect the people that she wants to protect. And so, yes, she failed in one mission, but I would argue that she's more likely to go get that thing back and get the rest of the pieces if she is completely unlocked. And I think for the last battle, for the side of the light, it's more important to have Nynaeve fully powered than it is to keep a toy away from these people.
Unless they can collar the dragon, then that's...
But that's a big unless, right? That's another step.
That's true. That's true. And I have to say, Rocky Zim and a lot of people agree, including me, believes that Leandrin threw Nynaeve into the water kind of to help her, encourage her to break her block. And I have to say, because Leandrin, she pauses and she looks back and like she's waiting for a second.
I don't know, man. Shouldn't she die and have her soul disappear, though?
She didn't make an oath.
The light
she
side
didn't
lady
make an
to get her-
oath. to that effect. You're making the oaths, like as we see with the Aes Sedai, they're allowed to wiggle around as long as they're following the letter of their oaths, like the exact wording of their oaths. Yeah. Okay, so I liked all the Wonder Girl stuff in Chinchico overall, and I'm calling Matt a Wonder Girl. I'm assuming next season we might get another Wonder Girl pairing. What two characters would each of you want to be in your own Wonder Girl team up?
Like I'm a Wonder Girl and I need to have
You're a Wonder Girl
girls.
And you have two other Wonder Girls. They don't have to actually be girls.
Nynaeve because she's OP. And Elaine because of reasons I can't say yet.
I definitely want Elaine because she's smart and she like does her research, but also she's fun. So I definitely want.
I want to know what you can't say.
I can't tell you, man. Do you need me to pull up River Song again? Here we go.
I think I know why, because they all develop various skills, but yeah.
It's like Taken. I have a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
I
want Elaine for her brain and for her personality. And I mean, part of me just wants to hang out with Matt but maybe like Egwene, she's like already, she's collecting a lot of skills. Egwene's a useful one too, but then maybe she overlaps with Elaine and I need like someone who's more, physically powerful or something. All right. I'm going to think about my second. What about you, Mark?
Elaine and Min.
Okay.
They just seem the coolest ones just to hang out with. Like Nynaeve is super powerful, but Nynaeve has some insufferable aspects of her personality, unfortunately. And Egwene, I do think that Rand's a little right. Like Egwene does have ambition, which is really helpful when you're trying to save the world. But what if I'm on the other side of that? I don't know. I don't know. Like I feel like Elaine and Min have an honesty that if you have to be in a trio, like you need that, I think. So they would be my two, I think.
I'm going to go with Alana.
Maybe they're not as powerful, but what are we doing,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, Egwene has hyperfixation ADHD like the rest of us. We get
it. I'm going to go with the Alana because she's going to be the muscle. What about you, Jean?
Moraine and Min.
Not Perrin? I'm just kidding.
I think the guys here are answering the wrong question. You're answering the blunt question again. I'm answering who do I want to be part of a superhero team with?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want Moraine and Min.
All right. Min's
Hard
got the
decision.
visions.
I'm answering. Yeah.
I think Moraine has.
I considered Moraine. Yeah.
Skills that the other ones, she knows how to wield the power that they don't.
And she's also good in diplomatic
They don't
situations,
have that.
Yeah.
And she's powerful. And she has years of experience wielding the power. And Min has this power of foresight, and I just think that would be indispensable.
All right.
And she's cool. So.
Okay. Shifting focus to the two rivers. We have Ken W., who says episode 7 is the best episode by far. This was obviously sent before the finale, so we don't know if he liked the finale better or not. But from Bane, Chiad, and Loial, the Waygate fight, the Bane and Chiad smile before their last battle, we all thought, to the Cawthon sister having some White Cloak barbecue after a hard day's work, more rousing battle songs, will Loial return as Loial the White, so much more. I've never cried or screamed to add it out in an episode of TV as I did this morning, and I've watched it 3 times. My neighbors must think I'm mad. Fantasy TV at its finest. Best show by a country mile. And yeah, since we were a bit hard on episode 7, I'm really glad because I know a lot of people did find it their favorite. So I'm really glad to hear from Ken his perspective on this.
Yeah, I think it was just a book reader problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm holding my breath for Loial the White. Well, we'll see. Kiefer N says, "Hey, Lorehounds, I'm show only. Watching this episode, all I could think about is how much this mirrors the motif of the battle at Helm's Deep from Lord of the Rings. A group of people who aren't soldiers fighting all night against insurmountable odds. Definitely echoed that battle. I suppose you could say it's a spiritual successor. The way you talk about how it's different in the books, it may be divergent, but the episode certainly felt the same in spirit." What do you think, John?
It has Helm's Deep vibes. I get that. I do appreciate that. I'll actually say it's more like Helm's Deep in the movies, because in the movies the elves come to help, and in the books they don't. And here we have like this like extra help coming from the White Cloaks. But actually, I think in the books we don't get that either. So it's actually you
get extra help though.
They do get extra help, yeah. From can I say? I think we could say, right?
We already said the wolves, right?
Yeah, the wolves. Wolves come. So yeah, I think it's the show and the movies of the Lord of the Rings are pretty close in that vibe.
Yeah, I have to say this is not the last battle. There's another one coming up in the not so distant future before the last battle that people are really excited about. So more battles. Stay tuned. Abby says, "I'm still in denial over Loyal. Loyal fell through the waygate and then rolled away when it crashed. Then he went to another waygate and then went home to a steading. If we don't see him later in the series, this is the explanation I am going with. If Alana can survive being stabbed with 100 knives and a huge spear, Loyal can survive a little fall."
Loyal is alive in my heart.
Yeah.
I do think Loyal being gone, I don't know what they're doing, assuming he is dead, let's say. Which I don't want him to be. I do think, despite him maybe kind of being periphery, not to spoil anything really, but he's not in and of himself the most important of our side characters, right? So you could excise him from the plot and it would survive, but it's really his perspective and his presence that's super important, because what he is like, he's kind of the perennial outsider in almost all the cases in the, there aren't a lot of other Ogier. So he's kind of always outside looking in. And he's a storyteller, history guy. So he feels sort of like an author surrogate and an audience surrogate at the same time. And he's loyal, right? Like what he is like sort of...
It's in the name.
Not our moral judge, but he kind of is like, he stands by some of these characters in moments that you don't know if they should, and he's like a marker of kind of, I don't know, some of the goodness of a cause at times, and I do feel like they lose the purity of that. He doesn't have sort of the ambition and the overwhelming power of some of these other characters that as they go through these massive glow-ups, you can almost look to Loyal and see, what does he think about this scenario? And that's kind of, you trust when he's like, I don't like this, Yogi. Like, then you kind of believe that. And then the times when he stands behind Perrin and says, I believe in you, then you kind of, it's a cue that we get as book readers. And if he is gone, we and I'm not saying whether he survives the whole book series, but to the extent that he's in the book series, he serves a useful role for the readers. And if he's gone, we lose that. And that sucks.
Yeah.
Ta'Viren.
I mean,
Yes.
he's gonna be missed. It does seem like there's a few factors at play, but I don't know. I think the door is not completely closed for him to come back. Should there be more seasons, and we'll see. Maureen D says, "Since there's been so much discussion on the pod about gratuitous versus non-gratuitous racy scenes, I want to praise the Alana subplot. I thought the threesomes with her warders were gratuitous at first, but they've really given those relationships more depth this season. But it was too much to have Alana almost die a second time. And at the same time, I was relieved she wasn't leaving, especially since I just started liking her character. If they decide to kill her off for real, it will have to be a dramatic death. I was glad when Perrin asked, I was glad when Perrin asked why the Two Rivers was being attacked. I kept wondering about that myself, and it was distracting for me. It would have helped if a character at least asked the question earlier. And yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't have a problem with Alana's plot in the beginning. I actually quite liked her the whole time in this show, but my biggest problem indeed is like too many near deaths for her, as much as I love her as a character. So Please stop with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, why are we doing this constantly? You do it so many times, it just gets cheap, right? It just makes you think like, well, no death matters now.
Yeah. But on the other hand, about what we said on the pod about the kids fast channeling to heal her, Rocky Zim says, my headcanon for learning how to channel quickly is when you are in a fight or flight, you can channel to save yourself out of anger. So the girls channeling to kill that piece of garbage was anger and rage. Days, who channeled the shield, was doing it like she was having an adrenaline rush to protect the one she loves. And I completely agree with that take, Rocky Zim.
They don't seem to be differentiating in the show between, there's sort of, in the books, there's sort of 3 levels of your relationship with the one power, right? You either can't do anything, you just start doing it, like Egwene
you can't
sort
not
of
do it,
naturally just starts channeling, you don't know why. But then there's people that could be taught, like you've got potential, you don't speak this language yet, but if someone teaches you, it seems like people that can channel just channel. And whether they know every weave or not isn't the point, but like I think there's just sort of baseline, like a cantrip that just a level 0 spell that any of them can do, and basic fireball and basic healing and basic like shield seems to be that.
This feels very D&D.
Yeah. Healing is a bit more complicated. The weaves that they have to use, they talk about that in the books. The healing's a bit more complicated, but fireball and shield, I think, is just like the first instinctual thing that you would learn.
Agree.
I know something else you agree with, Jean, is a lot of people think that Perrin should have killed Fane.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And whoever doesn't think that, they should kill him.
I don't know.
That's fair.
They're bad people.
Yeah. It turns out if you have a different opinion than Jean in fantasy, you
How's that for dogmatic, I tell you?
Jean has become a white cloak, apparently.
No.
He smells dark Fred everywhere.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess as if he had killed Fane. Yeah, that's the thing. Would it have ended the battle or not? I don't know, but it would have ended what Perrin thinks of himself, I think. Even though he just killed a bunch of other people. It's different.
What does he think of himself?
He thinks he's a good person who's flirting with the way of the leaf, even while killing people.
Then Illa is like, my boy, you're not going to kill the guy who killed all of us. You're amazing. Even better than my grandson who just saved a baby.
Okay, so like one thing about Perrin, the way they've treated his refusal to kill Fane or whatever. Somebody accused him, I think it was like Bornhold or Valda, one of the White Cloaks said he killed, I think it was Valda said to Dane, he killed your father in cold blood. And I was like, nobody there would think that. That was the middle of a battle. Like, yes, he killed him. Right. That's not cold blood. And what I think this is different is that Perrin isn't his whatever moral code that maybe is too precious for a world like this. He doesn't kill in cold blood. He seems to be fine with like hacking up fools with his axe and hammer on the battlefield. But if he's sitting there and Fane's on the ground, I kind of do buy that he wouldn't feel comfortable killing him, even though that probably saves a lot of lives. But you can see as much hemming and hawing with the way of the leaf that Perrin's doing. A guy who's submitting himself and sort of like begging his life, I buy that Perrin wouldn't kill it. That doesn't mean it's smart. It's definitely not smart. Yeah. Clearly, this guy probably deserves to die. But, it's like my earlier comment about how, why didn't Swan just say a few more things about why she did what she did? Maybe Perrin could say, look, he was killing people. It was the heat of battle. I did kill, so I don't know. It's just his weird moral code. But anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
Some minor justification of his idiotic sparing of his life.
So Abby's disappointed with Perrin for another reason. She says, Lord Perrin Golden Eyes didn't live up to my expectations as the showrunners teased hard the wolf thing, Trollocs being afraid of wolves. They even hung a wolf flag But on the other hand, Kat says, I'm a non-book reader, and I thought there would be wolves at the battle, but I'm glad that there weren't. In my rewatches, I skip over Hopper dying. Oh, my heart just can't take it, and I don't want to see any more dying. I hate that some people didn't like the episode. It's right up there with episode 5 for me. So apparently, Kat, I guess you especially liked because episode 5 is another big Two Rivers episode, so... I was just so invested in the fate of these people. Tears through too much of the episode. So many scenes just had me in my feels. Perrin has slowly become one of my favorite characters. This episode, we really got to see the man he's become. The only hate I have is Fael's accent. It feels forced. I'm gonna feel crappy if that's her actual accent, which is not. She's Australian.
She could join the Thunderbolts with that accent.
And just to add to two more brief things, Caroline says, I really loved episode 7 in development of Perrin's character. He's fast becoming one of my favorites. I particularly like how he didn't give a big, showy, rousing speech. Instead, he chooses a meaningful but understated song reminding people of where they've come from, which Elysia, I have to say, is very Perrin. And Elisa says, non-book reader here, I enjoy seeing Perrin's growth and felt emotionally connected to the Two Rivers and the people's fates. There were real stakes for me. Well done. So for all the people who loved the episode, you are definitely not alone. Lots of lovers of this episode and Perrin. And I don't dislike, I think Jean's the only one who dislikes Perrin. Yeah.
Yes, I'm the only one on the panel that dislikes
Perrin
Perrin.
neutral.
It's me.
I'm
me.
Perrin neutral leaning.
If Perrin has one hater, it's going to be me.
I think you'll
Yes.
come back, Jean. You're a perennial. Oh wait, perennials don't come back.
They don't come
never
back,
mind
right.
then.
Just like the White Cloaks, Jean does not like Perrin. So can I say one more thing on the Fane thing that just struck me? Going back to the overthinking I was doing about the Dark Oath thing. Is it commonly known? Lan said, "Oh my God, but you'll break your Dark Oath, and then your soul will die." Like that's commonly known.
Apparently,
that if your
Lan
dark
knows.
friend, or do we think it's because if it is commonly known, then it has to be the case. I would think that your society it's not just the White Cloaks, but like the penalty for being a dark friend if you're discovered has to be death. Because what we're talking about is a scenario in which you have, this was very Tolkien relevant, right? A truly irredeemable person. This person can only cause harm. This person is actually physically, magically unable to ever not be bad. They have to follow the orders of the dark one. So Padan Fane must be killed because you could free him now. There is no chance he would ever turn a new leaf. And that is very interesting implications that I've never thought of because this isn't really in the books this way. And like, we think of the White Cloaks as so ridiculous. And obviously like they're accusing people willy-nilly of being dark friend. But I would assume even just the Two Rivers law is if you're caught as a dark friend and proven as a dark friend or whatever, you must be put to death. Unless what Lan said is not common knowledge. And that's just like Warder, like, you know,
well, certainly,
I don't know. Like
Lan knows a lot more than Perrin does, for sure.
Right.
Lan has been out and seen the whole world, and he's been around longer.
Perrin's
He knows
just
a lot
been
of
swinging a hammer for 20 years.
He's been
But
in
am
a
I
small
right from
town
an
his whole
ethical
life.
standpoint?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I agree. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't know. I don't believe in the death penalty, but I would like give people, even knowing that that breaking their oath would kill them, I would give them a chance to do that.
Interesting. To let their because also if you do that, then you can't be reborn into the wheel and lead a good life.
Oh,
Which,
I
in
see.
theory,
So you're saying it's kinder to kill them.
Right.
Good point.
someone breaking their dark oath erases the possibility that a future version of themselves could ever, presumably, according to what we saw on screen, it seems, could ever be a good person, right? It says that your soul is just gone. And unless you think that someone who's a dark friend in one world, one life, has to always be a dark friend in any following, like, I think it's different from the death penalty because the death penalty you're taking away, or you like a death penalty in our world, like humans do have the capacity for redemption, I would think, right? So, and whether you could argue about whether like everybody has that equally, but like people change their minds and change who they are as humans, whereas this almost presumes that it's impossible to do that. And
you cannot do it.
And it seems also, God, I feel like I'm complaining about this, but it feels who would ever be a dark friend if that was the risk? Because if you actually, it seems everybody like takes it as a matter of faith or just understanding that the wheel of time exists. And I don't understand how they know that with certainty, but we will come back as another life. And I might be starving to death. I might have a baby that like I have to feed like Leandrin, but if I die and this baby dies, I will come back again in another age and be able to try this again. But if I sign up with the Dark One and I make a mistake and I change my mind, I have pulled myself out of the wheel. And that seems like, who would agree to do that? I don't know. I feel like I'm poking holes in something that I'm not
Leandrin,
meant to be.
how desperate was Leandrin at the moment that she swore to Ashameo? Like
desperate enough to if you had certainty, essential certainty, and maybe a 13-year-old girl didn't, that like you had multiple shots at this thing we call life, right? That like you're going to have literally infinite chances potentially to do this and to get it right. And if I save my baby in this moment, who will also have infinite chances at life, and then I change my mind later in life, my eternal soul will lose its shot. Like, we're all wanting as an audience to see a Leandrin redemption story. I feel like they're setting that up. And we've been told that if that happens, her soul is erased and can never be redeemed. And
I think that makes a stronger storytelling there, because if we like Leandrin as a character, of course we want to see her redeemed, but now we know if she does, it costs everything
and that's a major change in terms of the moral implications of the book. I think the book, we are supposed to think that maybe Lanfear could change. Maybe these people can change. We see a dark friend change in one of the first two books. So, that's just a different take. And it's interesting because I've almost all of the, and I know I'm hijacking the conversation here, almost all of the changes they've made seem to fit the modern era well, right? They've changed a lot of their gender dynamics. And I just wonder if they've backpedaled into more of a black and white, good versus evil.
See, I think it does exactly the opposite, because it makes it more, it's not like, oh, we just want her to redeem herself, because now we know what a sacrifice it would be for her to actually redeem herself. I think that makes it more complex.
I'm just going to say, I think that the Dark One's contract with this probably looks a lot like Willy Wonka's when you go into his factory, where you can't really read the bottom of it. I don't know how clear the terms are here.
Right.
Or if it's just like, swear these oaths and then I'll take care of you.
That's true.
But like, I don't want Leandrin to redeem herself. What I want Leandrin to do is to meet justice and be killed, probably, and then be reborn in the next age and have a chance at not an abusive husband that lets her grow up and just be a normal lady. Sure. Like, I want her to.
Well, hopefully she grows up before the husband. In the next one.
Right.
Strike that,
you know
reverse
what I mean? Like, I don't want the redemption anymore, because I know the redemption is a damnation, whereas they have a chance again the next time they're reborn.
Right. And I think that makes it more complex. But yeah. Okay, but speaking of complex characters, Abby defends Elida. She says, I think everyone realizes why Shova Agdashlu was cast as Elida. Detractors can shush. There's no other actress who can rock these costumes and jewelries like her. And it's not really a defense of the character, but she sure does have a style.
Look, I wanted her as Catsuane, but if we're not going to get her as Catsuane, this is a great second, right? Like, I'm glad she's in the show.
Yes, I agree.
I still think she would have been a better Catsuane, but we're not going to get it, so I'm gonna praise her for this.
All right, and then the rest of our tower talk is around another certain death. So, Alex L, I'm avoiding some spoilers in Alex L's email, but how was this not a violation of the 3 oaths, the killing of Swan, in particular the 3rd oath? And then from the Gathering Storm, I vow that I will never use the one power as a weapon except against dark friends and shadow spawn, or in the last extreme of defending my life or that of my warder or another sister. And Alex asks, is it enough if they believed Swan to be a dark friend? And yes, I would say the answer to that is yes.
Yeah. The 3 oaths are subjective, right? They are based on your belief. If I believe this thing is true and I say it, then I can say it.
Yeah.
I don't think Elysia thinks dark friend.
Oh, I do. I absolutely think
do.
Elysia is convinced that Swan is a dark friend.
Really?
The winks and nods to Moraine, the secret meeting with the dragon. I think she is convinced that she's a dark friend. But Elysia didn't kill her, did she?
No,
that was,
that's true. Alviarin
right?
was the one who. But I think that they showed us that Elysia is most likely not a dark friend herself because of that whole thing, that whole intrigue with the Black Aja sisters they had locked up. I think that this means that in order to not have violated her oaths, she must have genuinely believed that. Yes.
It is kind of weird though, because they talk about in the books and the history, like people get deposed or just sisters commit crimes and they get stilled and executed. I just assume they probably are executing them with a weapon, like they have someone cut their head off or whatever. Because what if you needed to still and execute a Amerlin who did something terrible, but who nobody thinks is a dark friend? Like their rituals wouldn't work, right? Because, well, if we always have to use the power, like it's so, I don't know. I know they wanted dramatic effect and all that, but probably they'd have a warder killer or something, right? Because that's what. It doesn't matter if you're a dark friend. If you've been sentenced to death, why do you have to rely on the one power? Kind of a strange. But
I don't think they needed to, though. I think this was. We're tired of listening to you. We're accusing you of being a dark friend anyway. /
Yeah.
And maybe if she didn't fully think she was a dark friend, then Alviarin would have tried to channel and be like, "Oopsie, can't do it." But like, I do think that we can just take away from this that what the show is telling us is that these women believe that Swan was a dark friend.
Right.
But I also think that in that moment, it was more than her being a dark friend. I felt the first part of what you just said. We're tired of listening to you. We're tired of you leading us down this path that maybe it is the path of the force that we have all sworn to oppose. It just felt more personal than that to me. It didn't feel, watching it, I didn't feel like they were just out because they really felt that she was a dark friend. Like she had this connection and she was doing everything that she could do to bring the downfall of our society. It just felt more personal.
Yeah, they got the 11 people who wanted her out to make quorum. Right. And I have to say, they need to get a copy of Robert's Rules of Order or like some other parliamentary procedure, because to have an unplanned meeting that you don't send notification and you only need 50% of your total membership to like when they voted Swan in, there were no Red Aja members present. Like that can't be cool, the way they did that. Like, I don't know, that shady. They're
but I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they don't do the swearing in of the Amerlin like the books, where they have to like inspect the women's genitals and stuff. That's
Oh, I did not know this. Okay. I forgot about that. Elysia, I was thinking about. We were just watching the Doctor Who episode that dropped yesterday, the day before we recorded, where you can literally change the commander if you have 2 votes in your entire squad. You can just mutiny. And we were both like, that doesn't seem like good governance. And here we are. Mark would have a field day with that one.
Yeah. Well, at least this is a majority.
Yeah.
And Elysia just, she may believe that Swan is a dark friend. She may believe that, right? I'm not saying that she doesn't. But for her, this was so much more than that.
But the oaths are not nuanced, right? They are just black and white. I can turn my power on or I can't.
Yeah, but 10 years of malice could have led her to be convinced she was a dark friend.
Exactly.
That's what and it's not just as simple as they believe she's a dark friend for me. Like I watched that entire scene unfold and and I just sat there and I'm like, don't the rest of them see what I'm seeing in her?
Yeah.
Don't they see like this joy that she's having at assuming power? Don't they see like the way that she's moving? It's like we got to take this. We got to get her out of here. Not because she's evil, but because you know what? I don't really like her. I just felt it was so obvious to me that her feelings for Swan had nothing to do with her being a dark friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It felt like it had everything to do with her not being the Amelin seed, and she was passed
And
over.
we didn't see it on camera, but they beat her and stuff too.
Yeah,
Right.
it's true. It's true. It's true. It's complicated. Related
That's the
to
Mean
this
Girls sequel we didn't ask for, right?
Right.
Come on.
Related to this, Angualupin. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. I know a lot of people were upset about Swan's death. However, it was, if not narratively necessary, certainly narratively justified. I would have loved to see Swan and Moraine retire to the river and forget all this world-saving nonsense, but that's not the story they're in. There is no version of this story, as it is being told, where they get their happy ending. Instead, Swan got a glorious speech and narratively meaningful death. I will miss her, but I'm glad she got the story treatment she did. And just to point out that the showrunner did come out afterwards and say, that this was something that he and Sophie Okonedo discussed from the beginning, because she could either go out at this point, or she could be, her story from here on out. There's one part of it they definitely are going to give to another character, and the rest of it, they're like, we're not asking this actress to do that part of that story. So it was her decision. Yeah. Oh, fun thing. That flashback back to the 10 years ago to Swan's coronation. There was the Blue Keeper of the Chronicles, played by Rebecca Root. It turns out it's confirmed, apparently, that she is, and this is, sorry, Jean, this is not someone you know yet, but you will next season. She's Lilane.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes me, and just also a lot of people were had questions about the fact that Rebecca Root is a trans woman and whether or not the character is trans. I'll just say that there is in the books. There is a prominent trans character. I think the show will definitely not do that the same way because it was not especially well handled. But it is established that in the lore, because of this character, it is established that whether you use the female half or the male half of the power is linked to your soul, not to your body.
I think also the word trans to be used with that character in particular may not be. It's
not a good portrayal of that, and I don't think they'll do it in the show.
Like, I don't even know that trans is even the right word to use. But but to this actor, I wonder. I assume we're just supposed to think this is take this as a trans woman playing what the universe would just have be a cis woman.
I think
we're supposed to be thinking about.
I don't think it matters either way, but just saying, regardless, it is established lore like that. But let's move on to some final thoughts. I know, John or Jean, who wants to read Jordan's?
I'm going to do it. You know what? I'm going to be brave.
It's tradition. It's tradition.
Salute les Lorehounds. I'm truly saddened by episode 6. But episode 6 will be my last of this wondrous Wheel of Time TV journey, as a good old Amazon account has officially expired. Though I still will happily be following along with you both, it just wasn't groundbreaking enough of a show for me to overlook present-day geopolitics and continue with our Amazon account. I do not wish to bring politics in here, but am curious if said recent politics may not be boding well for this amazing show. The timing seems to suck. I'm also curious as to how fellow fantasy geeks and nerds are squaring away all of these issues, i.e., I desperately want to support the show, but can't abide by supporting the likes of Bezos and Musk. I've also been putting out the feelers with my friends and many varied colleagues, all nerdified, certified, for the most part, of course, haha. And am sad to report most are not watching after season 1, truly their loss, or also follow along in the current atmosphere where a very large amount of Quebecois Canadians have canceled their Amazon memberships. I sadly fear this will be a common theme internationally, as though I'm not sure how much those numbers affect these things. Elysia, do you find this is the same on your side of the pond? That wasn't good.
Tukas. Yeah.
I hope it isn't the case, but I'm extremely worried for the future of the show if it can't seem to connect with the nerdverse whilst also being subject to the woes of silly politics. Alors, I am saddened that I will never discover Nynaeve flower into the powerful and competent person I hope she is meant to be. She does, right? Because if not, worst character ever. But we'll continue to follow your amazing coverage with glee. Sending good vibes for Voodoo and, of course, the show's future. In the meantime, I just bought book 2, so at least there's that. Sunday. Jordan.
I have to say the Canadians seem to have gone especially hard on the boycotts of like I've been hearing things about.
I wonder why.
I mean, I understand and I respect them for it, but also like things about like buying nuts from America and things like that.
Yeah.
I do think they've gone harder than other places, and you gotta respect that. But that's a bummer. Just say, of course, there's other ways. Anyway,
I just hope the wrong lessons aren't taken by the management of these companies. This where they go, well, this show was too this way, as opposed to. No, the reason viewership and subscriptions of Amazon Prime went was not because there was a trans actor in the show, but because of all the political stuff. Like, I just worry that they once again take the wrong lesson, and some of these shows will sort of take the blame maybe for any of the financial hits associated with this geopolitical stuff, you know?
Right. And that's why I know there are a lot of people who just want to show the show support. So they get, apparently in the US, you can have a Prime that's not shipping just the show, and then they cancel at the end of the season.
I did that for this. I had my Prime expire, and I subscribed for Prime Video for a little bit.
Right. I did the same thing. But, as far as that question is concerned, it's always fascinating to me because I'm being Black and in this space, I've always encountered those sorts of feelings. But I could not escape those sorts of feelings and be in this space. Right? I was often had to find myself in characters and in stories that did not portray Black people well or did not include us at all. So being in a space that is hostile to my own personal beliefs, creator-wise and sometimes story-wise, I don't feel the need to divest from Amazon in order to enjoy as protest, right? Because there are other ways that I know that I can protest. I'm constantly trying to find myself in these shows. And now I have an 8-year-old and trying to find my 8-year-old in these shows as well. You know what I mean? Trying to make space for my 8-year-old to see themselves in these shows. So it's a complicated question about, how do we boycott? How do we protest if that's what you want to do? That's your intention. But I would say from my perspective, sci-fi, fantasy, as long as I've been, watching and reading, has not always been a welcoming space. Right? Yeah. So I take that question and say that to folks out there, that there's a whole slew of us who have had to find ourselves in spaces that were not welcoming. And so in that way, I still enjoyed these shows, but it's always in the back of your mind, especially when I was growing up, how I'm not present on screen or on page. So take that for
And just anecdotally, I was, as the show was airing, I was paying a lot of obsessive attention to how is it being received by new people on social media. And it seems like the two communities where it made the biggest inroads, where I was seeing lots of new people coming on board and loving it, was the blurred community and the queer community, which is, I think, feeling more represented.
I think that makes sense.
That took me so long to figure out what blurred meant just now. It took me a while, and I'm
like
not,
the
I'm ashamed
Britpop
of it.
band.
Boy. We've been going a while. We got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up. So, all right. So, just saying there's a lot of demand for season 4 in the Discord. Obviously, Gina, we mentioned earlier, says, I'm a first-time podcast listener and found your account after watching, you guessed it, season 3, episode 4. I'm a fan of Lore-Rich Fantasy, but after watching that episode, I knew I needed to learn more about this world. I am praying to the creator that we have more seasons to cover together. Since listening to your podcast, I've rewatched seasons 1 and 2, as well as starting listening to the books on Audible, currently on book 3. My appreciation from Watt has gone from passively interested to fully invested. So yay, one of us. Yeah, and then Fred says, I'm stunned how well the show runners have pulled off this season. So many things from at least 3 books get taken care of, and not in a rushed way, but in a, wow, this shit is speeding down the tracks toward Tarman Gaidon, so they better get ready now. So I think those are good notes to end on. Yeah. So what do you guys think is the most satisfying plot arc that's come to an end this season? Valda, Loyal, or Swan, or someone else?
Satisfying Swan.
Mm-hmm.
Swan.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, I wish I could say Loyal as well, but it's definitely Swan.
No, they botched that.
I got the whole arc. I don't know if I would say botched.
No, they botched it. I'm going
I
to say they
disagree.
botched it.
Okay.
All 3 of those are so different from the books, right?
Mhm.
And all 3 of those
Really?
end earlier than in the books. But
Mhm.
Swans feels like it meant something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it contributed in a way that the other ones a little bit like
Fair.
felt like being tossed aside.
Okay. And Mark, what character would you most like to see head off into the afterlife in season 4?
To die? Oh my God.
John.
Most like to die in season 4?
Look at
Yep.
Yeah, Mogideon needs to up and leave.
Not my
Yeah.
Spider Queen.
Yeah, I think Bogey gotta go.
You're here.
We gotta get Bogey.
I don't know.
out, man.
I'm like, well, I want more from Fane's story, but I'm also want him to go.
I could deal with less Robin
Couladin
too.
can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
thing about,
Robin?
like,
Oh.
Dane.
The thing about Fane and Couladin and even Elida, these hateable people, like Mogideon is hateable and is crazy, unfairly powerful. So she's got to go.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But she's not. She's just smart. She hides in the. She's the least powerful in terms of like
She's
channeling.
the least powerful of the 10
You're
most
right,
powerful
right.
channelers.
Fair.
Powerful people,
She's
right?
the worst person at the Olympics. Like she's still an Olympian. Yeah.
It's fair. All right. John, if you were an Aes Sedai, which character would be your warder? And if you were a warder, which character would be your Aes Sedai?
Jesus. Not Jesus. That wasn't my answer. Sorry. Who would be my warder?
Yeah.
You're springing these things on me, Elysia. I don't know.
I'm gonna go with
Lestat
Lan.
would be my warder,
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
and I'm
From
going
a
to
different
interview with
show.
the vampire.
Oh,
And my Aes Sedai would be not Moraine. She's like awful to Lan. Anybody but Moraine. She's the worst to her warders for sure. No, I have no other answer.
All right. My Aes Sedai would be Elaine. My warder would be Avienda. Jean or Mark, do you have thoughts on that one?
I was going to say either Bane or Chiad as my warder.
Okay.
Or Lan.
okay.
And you get 2 for 1 because she goes where
Yeah,
she goes.
2 for 1. That's right. One will just follow along.
Yeah.
And then Aes Sedai, probably if I were a warder, I'll go with Elaine, probably. Elaine or Ilana,
Okay.
maybe.
All right. And Jean, you said before that you would most want to join the sea folk culture. What about Mark and John? What culture would you most want to join? And what cultures would you assign the other hosts to?
Oh,
Because
gosh.
Jean, I could see you as a borderlander for sure, if not a sea folk person. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, you're the protection
Okay.
witch.
Okay.
Man, I'm trying to think of exactly where I'd want to be. I want to be able to be in like a scholarly area. You know what I mean? I want my knowledge around me. If I'm not
Yeah.
going to have Google, I want my books. I guess I'd want to live in
brown
Tarvalon.
Aja. Okay, yeah. I'm going to name a group, and I'm not going to explain it because they've not been introduced. I'm just going to say the name. I would want to be a kinfolk.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
They're pretty chill.
And
So that's Ibu Dar or whatever.
Now I gotta go
Yeah.
look that up.
Yeah. Shoot, can I I want to say there's a certain I would be a certain tower.
okay, gotcha.
A certain tower.
Not
That
Tarvalon.
we don't know yet.
But a different one. Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that. That's
and-
where I would put you to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What does that say?
Oh, boy.
Doesn't say it. That's not anything
Yeah.
bad. One of my favorite characters is there. Well, one, yeah.
Yeah, and gosh, who hasn't been accounted for? I think I don't know who should we insult by saying they should live in Kyrien? Like I don't know.
Oh,
Who's conniving?
no
and
one
scheming
here.
and-
No
Yeah,
one
no.
here.
Well, we're sending David to Kyrian because he wouldn't watch the show, and he's not going to
Yeah,
listen to
there we
this. So
go.
we'll send him to
That's right.
Kyrian.
Oh yeah.
He can play the
I'm
game of
sorry,
houses. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my
Well,
god.
Karian, for anyone who doesn't remember, is where Moraine's from, and we saw it last season, and that they like to play political games a lot.
Yes, they do.
All right. We've been talking about this enough. Is there any final thoughts anyone wants to throw out there before we close this down?
We talked for 3 hours. I have no more thoughts in my head. I see.
Just give me season
All right.
4. That's
All
all
right,
I'm
yeah,
asking
I think
for.
we're all on that same page. I'll say we have Thunderbolts coming soon. Sean and
Do
I
the accent,
have to
come on.
discuss. What's the accent?
Thunderbolts are
Thunderbolts.
coming soon.
There you go. You see, you do the accent. I have the word sinners down here with the side eye emoji. We got to do it. We got to do it. And we, of course, yeah. And the reason why there's even any question about us doing Sinners is because we're doing weekly The Last of Us, brief Doctor Who episodes, and we have our Andor squadrons. So, John, do you want to tell people about the season pass for Andor?
There's a season pass. You can get bonus episodes like we did the lore cast on the Wheel of Time, but we're calling them Holocron episodes on Andor because I'm all about branding with Andor. I call it Brandor this season. And we're going all in with our squadron. So we're doing each episode individually. Each one of us, you, Alicia, me, and David are all taking an episode a week, and we are splitting it up, but still doing full coverage of everything, which is a lot of fun.
And you and John are together this week, right?
That's right. That's
Wow.
right.
Yes, we are.
John and I
Yes, we
were
are.
together last week, the fourth week. Yeah, and there's one last Wheel of Time little mini extra coming your way, the dramatic reading of the Carathian Cycle with soundscape. And subscribers, of course, get all the season pass stuff for both Wheel of Time and Andor and everything else, plus the extra stuff like Second Breakfast and 11Zs. This month's topics are pizza and A Real Pain. And other extras, like, I don't know, we're eventually going to do more Marvel stuff when things calm down. What's going on, Mark, with Nevermind the Music?
Yeah, so we're talking about TLC a lot. So last week's episode was about a TLC tune. This week's sidetrack is also about TLC. Nicole has a lot she wants to say about that band, that group.
It was iconic for me,
and then
too.
actually, what's that?
It was an iconic band for me, too. Group for me, too.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got one more regular episode, and then we're doing a mailbag. So if people can send in their thoughts either on Discord or nevermusicpod@gmail.com. Send us your questions. We would love to talk about them for not 2.5 hours, but for a nice, robust conversation between Nicole and I. So send them in the next week or two, and we'll for sure talk about it.
All right. Well, you find the link to Nevermind the Music in the link tree in the show notes. And of course, also the email address in the show notes, link to the Discord where we're chatting about everything, and links to the other affiliates, Radioactive Ramblings, Properly Howard, Rings and Rituals, Will Shift Dust, and the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast. And just thank you everyone for listening and for enjoying the show with us. And if you feel free, or you are warmly encouraged to share this episode with anyone else who enjoys the Wheel of Time and wants to hear a bunch of people bullshit about it. And feel free to leave especially positive reviews wherever you're listening. John, do you want to give the final thank yous?
Our Discord server boosters: Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Dork of the Ninjas, Duve71, Athena A, Tina Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Partition, and Radioactive Richard. Then our lore masters on Supercast and Patreon: Some Martian, Michael G, Michelle E, Brian P, SC, Peter OH, Adam S, Nancy M, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Matthew M, Sarah M, Andra B, Kwang Yu, oh my God, I'm saying Kwang Yu twice. You get 2 thank yous today. Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan T, Alex V, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Neil F, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, Julia F, Kali S, Ilmariel, /Tim, and Adrian. Thank you all for all your support. So it makes us be able to do these 3-hour, podcast fests for feedback.
Thank you, and the light with you all who listened this far.
Take care. Thank you.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions, feedback, and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all our episodes at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities.
Lord Vader, Operation Andor is underway.
Excellent. If we release 3 episodes per week, the Lorehounds will never be able to cover every episode. The Imperial forces will crush the rebellion before it begins.
Stand by. We're picking up something on our scanners.
Echo Squadron, reporting in.
Delta Squadron, on your left.
Tango Squadron on your 6.
With Imperial forces coming in fast, we're calling all rebels to join the fight this season. Starting after the April 22nd premiere, you'll hear 3 full breakdowns for each week's episodes of Andor Season 2. Each podcast will be led by one of our squadron leaders, Elysia, David, and John. We'll be bringing in new and familiar voices to fill out the roster. Search for the Lorehounds on any podcast platform to join us in a galaxy far, far away. And don't forget to check out our season pass for even more content like our Holocron bonus pods. It's good news for anyone, except Darth Vader.